Welcome back to an episode on Bespoke's Food. Today I'm going to be talking about all things social media and eating disorders. So how effectively social media can really affect eating disorders, trigger it, make it worse, and sometimes even cause them. For myself, I really battled with Instagram, TikTok, all of those sort of things that was just constantly being flooded and exposed to, which really made my ED worse and at times almost led me to kind of start certain behaviors or weird diets and stuff because of things that I'd seen on social media. So hopefully I'm going to give you some tips on how to kind of overcome this if you're struggling with social media and EDs, and yeah, let's take it from there. Sometimes I wish we were just back in the day when phones and social media just didn't exist, and as much benefit as they do bring as much harm, I feel, especially with eating disorders. I think just constantly having access and seeing what people are doing is just fueling us for comparison. I know I touched on comparison in EDs before, but I really just touched on social media, and today I want to kind of deep dive into social media and how we can have certain tips to kind of not let these things trigger us or even sometimes cause an ED, and how to overcome them. So, yeah, like I said, phones and social media are really just a trigger for kind of setting off any ED thoughts or ED behaviors. And let's face it, it's really hard to kind of get rid of social media. I mean, it's literally everywhere. Even if you delete yourself off Instagram for a while, you're basically going to be exposed to trends, fads, or unhealthy, relationships with food. So we're going to have to find a way to accept it and overcome it. But before I kind of get into some tips, I want to go through a couple points on this topic and just discuss them in more detail. So for most of us, especially I think women and men actually, we don't always have the best relationship with our body. I know it's sometimes, I feel more confident in my body, and other times I don't, and it does just change. And being on social media all the time and being exposed to what other people are doing and what they look like, posting photos of their body, is constantly making you compare what you look like to them. And in most cases, it's not going to make your body image be any better at all. It's definitely going to make it feel worse. Instagram, for me, it really kind of creates the standard of how our bodies should be, or it makes you believe that. It makes you believe that, right, this is what this person looks like because they're eating this particular diet, and therefore in order for you to look that way, you have to change your diet or change your exercise routine in order to fit it, which is just not realistic. Firstly, they are different. Like, we are all unique human beings, have different bodies, and even if we had to all follow the same exercise plan and same meal plan, we would look different. I know with me during my ED, with my being around, especially during lockdown, when I was really at the midst of my lowest point, let's say, with my ED and my lowest weight, what I used to find is I would kind of compare myself to my sister who was around me, similar age, and try and eat the same as her, try and exercise the same amount as her, and I would still look different. So it literally just proves to you that no matter what you do to try and do the exact same thing as a fitness influencer or whatever, you're not going to necessarily yield the same results. And also, most of the time what they're doing is not even a true representation. I mean, they might say, oh, I'm going to the gym X amount of time, and they're doing, Y or whatever. And we don't really know what they are eating. Like, what they are posting is just what they're showing. We just don't know. So yeah, I just touched on appearance versus reality. So seeing all people's posts, stories, highlights, reels, whatever it is, thinking that is their normal life, this is what we should eat in a day. Again, you can choose to post whatever you want. Like, literally, you could be posting something and looking this way and you guys don't know what's behind me. I mean, that was a stupid comparison, but we just need to accept that, like, what people are posting is not necessarily what's actually happening, and therefore comparing is just pointless. For me, when I was battling with my ED and kind of when I got into restricting and over exercising, as soon as I would search like a low calorie diet or whatever, suddenly my Instagram and all my For You pages were just fueled with exercises, routines, and these picture perfect meals that have like a carrot and like a cucumber and a piece of chicken, and making you think that is normal. And it's almost like the more that you look for something, the more it kind of pushes and you kind of end up seeing it. So it's really hard to get away from it. I know even me now, like, sometimes my For You page is just filled with like super healthy, clean recipes or models that just have these unrealistic body images. So I understand that it can be super triggering and impossible to kind of get away from. So I just do my best to kind of try and unfollow them or get rid of as many kind of those suggested posts as possible. And a lot of people on social media, you might think that, you know, they have a great relationship with food or with exercise, but they might actually be struggling. Like most of the time, you don't have to necessarily be, you know, below a certain weight or above a certain weight in order to have a full-blown eating disorder. You can, you know, look completely normal. It's just your behaviors and your relationship with food and exercise is just completely abnormal. So these people might not have an eating disorder, but they have a form of disordered eating, which is just as unhelpful and obviously are super messed up behaviors anyway, that can influence any, you know, person that has a good relationship with their bodies to start doubting it and start, you know, getting on board with some strange behaviors and patterns. For example, those what I eat in a day videos are just a load of crap. I mean, the fact that people post them, like, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to, you know, show, oh, I got through the day with just eating this, or, you know, these are foods I really liked? I don't even understand the point. I don't know, it's weird. Even if you think that you're quite mentally strong and you don't let, you know, social media kind of affect you or bother your relationship with your food and image, the amount of images and posts that are bombarding our brains and that we're seeing, it can make any sane person go insane and start doubting themselves or doubting their body images. I mean, we're literally subconsciously, like, even if we're not consciously taking in all the information, our brain is subconsciously taking it all in, believing that that is normal and that we should be eating this way or exercising that way. And another thing with social media that has really, I think it's not like a trend, and it also makes you feel, you know, like you need to be doing something different if you're not, is this whole strong but not skinny. And again, that in itself is another obsession. Like, okay, we no longer want to be skinny, great, we've gotten over that, but now we have to be super strong, have this amount of muscle, go to gym 7 times a week for 3 hours a day. That's just also not realistic. I mean, all of these gym influencers, that is their job and career, and that's all they want to be doing. For most of us, we're either studying or we have a job or we work part-time or whatever, and we just don't have the time, you know, to spend that much time exercising or creating perfect meal plans. Most of the time that is, you know, I think it is for show, or again, it's just that is what their life is and that they've chosen to make that their career path. So, you know, cool, good for them if that's what they want to do. I think it's so important to just be mindful that this whole strong, not skinny, or, you know, okay, bro, I need to gain weight, but I can only gain weight in a healthy way or by gaining this amount of muscle. That is still an obsession, and that's still an ED behavior. It's a red flag. So until you can really just, you know, see all this content, accept that that's what's out there and not let it affect you, that is when you're probably mentally the strongest. And I'm not gonna lie, it's still tough, even for someone like me that's recovered, and I see content now and again, you know, it might trigger me, but then for a second I kind of just let go and move on and don't really think about it again. But prior, in my ED days, it would really bother me, and I would, you know, take action on what I saw and change my habits and behaviors accordingly. So a key part in what I've just said is body images, having a bad body image can be fueled from social media, and most of the time is actually fueled from social media. It doesn't always just come from within, it comes from comparing, but it's so important to know that what you look like does not dictate your worth. And I think social media does a really good job about convincing us that if you look a certain way, you'll be successful, or have more likes, or you'll be liked by people, whatever it is. So that is just such an important part to just like keep it as a mantra, that what you're seeing what you look like is not dictating your worth. So I've spoken about social media and how it can really affect someone who's struggling with an ED, or even if you don't have an ED, it can still be quite a triggering platform for us, especially with our relationship with our body and how we see ourselves. So a couple tips that I want to share, and what I did, which I found super helpful during my ED recovery, and even now that I'm recovered, I've unfollowed all of like any accounts that I find that are pro diets or pro, like, you know, crazy fitness routines. Just unfollow them, get rid of it. There's no point having these triggers there and seeing them and trying to deal with them every day. Just unfollow them. So number 2 would be to follow pro recovery accounts. So I didn't really touch on how social media can be actually a good thing. I followed some accounts that honestly, like, I would even say like saved my life. They really were helpful, and I could relate to them more than what therapists and professionals could relate to me. So there are accounts out there that are really life-saving and they give such important information, so do follow them. I do have an Instagram account too if you want to follow it. Number 3 is don't take what you see as face values. What we see on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the platform is not reality. It's just what people are choosing to portray, and it's not actually necessarily what is happening for real in their lives, and there's usually, you know, another story behind it. Number 4 is don't compare yourself. So again, social media is just constantly fueling us to compare and to compare, you know, our food, all of this sort of stuff. So remember, comparison is not helpful in ED recovery or in anyone's life. So just really try to be mindful and don't do it. I hope that this episode on social media and EDs was helpful. I feel like it is a topic that I could talk about for ages. There is really so much to it, and again, I really think that the reason why eating disorders are on a rise is because of social media, which has really kind of you know, pushed this number to increase. So hopefully these tips were helpful, and if you did like the episode, please do give this video a like and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.